Morning, everyone. If you'd please join me for O Canada, followed by a moment of quiet contemplation. And it just came to my attention this morning the passing of former Severn Mayor and Aurelia Mayor Ron Stevens. So if you could keep him in your thoughts, that would be great. Thank you. Please be seated. So I'll look to my clerk for roll call.
Thank you, Warden Clark. And just before roll call, I'll take a moment just to advise members of council that there are some technology upgrades going on in the chamber. You may notice your microphone is a bit different, but it should function exactly the same. One press on, one press to turn it off, just so that you're aware. And although the updates to the council chamber are not yet complete, they will be soon, I anticipate, for the November 12th meeting. So to the roll call. We received regrets this morning from Councillor Cabral, who will not be in attendance, and no alternate will be in his place. Other than that, all members of council are present for this meeting, and you have your quorum, Warden Clark.
Thank you, Patrick. And yeah, with the new technology, I see we're on camera up here now, so I am glad I took extra time doing my hair this morning so that I don't offend anybody. So with that, I'll look for approval of the agenda. Councillor Dolan.
Thank you, Your Worship. Good morning. I have a motion moved by Councillor Hamlin and seconded by myself that the agenda for the October 22nd, 2024 meeting of County Council be approved.
Any questions arising from the agenda? Comments? Not seeing any. All in favor? Thank you. That's carried. A little bit of a feedback, eh? I'll try to push it farther away. Do I have a disclosure of hearing interest by any member of council? If you find yourself in that situation later, please declare it at that time. Presentations and deputations, we have none. A consent agenda. Councillor Burkett.
Good morning, Your Worship. Through you, moved by myself, second by Councillor Norcross, that the Council Communications and Proclamations, October the 8th, 2024 to October the 21st, 2024, have been given due consideration, be received.
On that motion, is there any questions? All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. And the adoption of the council minutes and the confirmation committee reports. Deputy Warden. Oh, we don't have any. Oh, you don't? Okay, well, I've got the motion here. If you don't mind, Deputy, then I'll get you to move it. And seconded by Councillor Fryer, that the following council minutes be confirmed and adopted and the committee of the whole reports be confirmed. County Council minutes, October 8, 2024. Committee of the whole report, October 8, 2024. Any concerns arising from those minutes? All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. So now presentations and considerations of the Committee of the Whole reports. Councillor Cox.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Evans, that performance management recommendations contained within the Committee of the Whole report dated October 8th, 2024 be approved.
Thank you, Chair Cox. I apologize for that. Any items need to be pulled from performance? Not seeing any. All in favor? That is carried. Now, Chair Leduc, Human Services.
Thank you, Warden. We're at 9.2. It moved by myself, seconded by Councillor McDonald, that Human Services recommendations contained within the Committee of Whole report dated October 8th, 2024 be approved.
Any concerns rising from the Human Services? Not seeing any, so all in favor? That is carried. Thank you. And last, Chair Dolan, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Measures that the corporate services recommendations contained within the Committee of the Whole report dated October the 8th, 2024 be approved with the exception of the delegated authority item.
Any items of concern under corporate? Not seeing any, so all in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Presentations and considerations of special committee reports, and we have the Governance Committee. Do you have the motion, Jen?
Thank you. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Laux, that the Governance Committee recommendations contained within the Governance Report dated October 15th, 2024 be approved.
Okay, on the governance, and bear with me, I'm just opening it myself. Is there any items that we want to pull that we all see the recommendations? Including the salary, so no items to be pulled, no items to be discussed. I want to make sure that that's clear before, oh, yes, Councillor Cox.
Yeah, I would like to pull the...
6.2?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Oh, can you turn your mic on, Judith?
Yes, 6.2, please.
Okay, so we'll pull 6.2 for a separate discussion. So on the rest of the agenda as amended, if you could read it, Patrick.
Thank you, Warden Clark. So the motion would be that the Governance Committee recommendations contained within the Governance Report dated October 15th, 2024 be approved, with the exception of item 6.2, GOV 2024-211, Governance Workshop Follow-Up Council Compensation Options.
On the remainder, any concerns? This is over the pregnancy leave. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. I will defer to you, Councillor Cox. You pulled the item.
Yeah, I would like to speak to this because I'm having a problem with the percentage of increase. And I realize that it will be for the next council, but still, it still comes from the pockets of the ratepayers of Simcoe County. I feel that if we were going to do any increase, we should have done and should do it in increments. And I also believe that we should have maybe looked at our municipal wages. And I also would like to know is if when we looked at these different wage comparators, I thought about it after governance, do all these people that were compared to the other councillors, are they full-time councillors? Are they both municipal and county councillors? How many meetings a year they go to, how many report, I mean, we need to make sure that we're comparing apples to apples. And with the economy the way it is right now, I can't, in good faith for the residents of Simcoe County, go with such a high increase. Thank you.
Looking for comments. Councillor Fryer.
Thank you, Warden. I won't be supporting any increase at all. I maintained in our last vote in regards to the composition, I was supportive of status quo, so I'll be staying with status quo in regards to compensation as well. I've read the report. I understand the reasoning that's being put forward, but I maintain that the structure I thought that we had right now had been given due thought in putting it together. The compensation that was being awarded to councillors was based on the fact that there is 32 of us, and I'm not supportive of any change at all. Thank you.
In support of any change period or any change for this term? I just want to clarify.
Any change.
Okay, all right. I have Councillor Bell.
Thank you very much. I did miss, I think the meeting this initially came up. I do support it. I do think that if somebody's remuneration should be that level, it should be that level. I don't think, I mean, my vote would be to actually vote it in immediately. If this is what we should be getting paid, this is what we should be getting paid. I've been in business for over 30 years, and if an employee came to me and said, you know, the average for my position out there is this much, and I'm less than half of what it should be, I would say we need to correct that immediately. So I think that people need to understand that, yes, we did get into this and we knew what we were doing somewhat. I think that we could make more time, but I think everything we do at county, there's a lot of responsibility, but I think you take a lot of time from your family. For me, when I take time from my job, my business, I have to make that time up on weekends, in evenings, in holiday pay. All of those things affect my family life, and I think that the compensation should make sense. That's my opinion.
Councillor Burkett.
Thank you, through you, Your Worship. I too cannot support this, but I'm just curious, if this House votes in favor of this, how does it impact our levy? I'm just curious.
Well, the motion on the floor, or that was from governance, wouldn't take effect till the next term of council. So, but then Trevor, what would the levy be on the next term of council? Because that's the recommended motion from the governance report.
Through the chair, I'm just looking at the total compensation. Sorry. Just looking to, yeah, that's what I was looking for. It depends upon the option that you pick, but the option that is recommended, the approximate increase would be about a 0.6% increase, I believe.
Councillor Sandu.
Thank you, Warden. Just for clarification, in the financial and resource implications in the report, it says the bylaw summarizing the changes as a result of this report would have the changes taking effect as of 2025. So it would not be next term, it would be this term. Am I understanding it correctly?
I'll let Patrick explain. That's not the decision the governance made.
Warden Clark is correct. So that was originally the way the report was written when it went to governance committee, with the intent that the changes, based on feedback given at the June 18th workshop, the intent was that those changes would come into effect for this term of council. However, the motion that was passed by governance committee and recommended to council was for these changes to come in to effect for the 2026 to 2030 term, with the exception of just the annual increases, which would take place most likely for next year.
Thank you.
Councillor Hamlin.
Thank you. I am in favor of having an increase. I'm grateful it would be next term. I'm always reluctant to award increases to myself when I'm sitting in the position. I think part of what's important for local government is encouraging the younger generation to begin to step up. And those who are working full-time take time off from those jobs to sit as councillors and on county council. And the loss in pay, we should at least be attempting to match some of the funds they're losing. It shouldn't be a prerequisite of sitting on a local council that you don't need any other income, and that you're retired or whatever it is. And I feel that particularly as the boomers are aging out, okay, I confess I'm one, we have to start encouraging the younger generation that are still working to come and step into these positions. And I think we need to increase the salary to reflect that. Thank you.
Councillor Measures.
Excuse me. Yeah, thank you very much, Your Worship. For members of the House to understand, this was a very good debate at our Governance Committee. I acknowledge our Deputy Warden did a very good job conducting the meeting, and we bantied around quite a lot of information and came up with a solution which I believe is well captured in the motion. The important part of this motion to me when I was at the Governance Committee was that recognizing that this county council team, this whole house, is so far behind to our comparators because we have not been activating the proper COLA adjustments year over year. And so the second paragraph of this motion is what's very important to me, that this council and this house understand that we must apply the COLA adjustments that are equal to the non-union salary band, and that would help us to maintain and get closer to where we should be to meet our comparators. Obviously, that has not been happening, and as a result, that's why you have this motion in front of you that shows a rather significant increase. And so this part is what we need to clearly understand, that we need to apply this into our budgets, into our procedures in the future immediately, so that the COLA adjustments keep this house in tune with the rest of the government or rest of the regional governments. The second part about the actual wage increase, that was well debated, and if I can, through the chair of governance, just to acknowledge that we discussed whether this should go immediately, as was brought up by Councillor Bell. We discussed, whether this should even be on the table. Maybe it should be two separate motions. But I think the recommendation that's now been presented demonstrates that we recognize that putting this type of increase in, for the next term of council is the appropriate way to do it. None of us want to be political and give ourselves an immediate raise. It can cause all kinds of ire across the community. It can actually cause division amongst your colleagues at your council table. And so this is a good compromise, given that we acknowledge the COLAs, we do that right away, and then we acknowledge the increase in the base salary in the next term of council. The important part for us all to recall that, when we began as a group here 2 years ago, that we had immediately had to go into a budget process, and thankfully our staff here at the county deliver a really good budget information document. And I would suggest to you that the 2026 council that gets elected will see the same type of performance from our staff and have a really good explanation about how this motion, if it passes, will impact the future residents and the residents of Simcoe County through the next term. Effectively, the 2027 budget will be approved by that council, and that's where this increase will come into effect. It's also will be well communicated with all of the other councils around the, around our county. And so we understand, as was, the base rate that would be that could be increased would be something that we would have to look at across all of our townships. So I'm in support of this motion, mostly because the decision for this council to increase the wages is put on the table for 2027. And it'll be well understood through the Treasury and through our future election that this is what will be one of the first decisions for the elected mayors and deputy mayors that will be coming back to this house. And so I think this was a pretty good compromise, given that the workshop that so many of you attended reviewed this information, and you were all, I'm sure, shocked to see how low of a wage this county council gets paid rather than those of other regional districts the same as ours. So I'm in favor of it as presented, and acknowledging that the future council of the 2026 elected and 2027 budget, they will have to make that decision and how they apply it. That could be that they could divide it up and give it over the 4-year term and do it 25% each year. That's up to them to decide. It's not up to us. So that's why I think we're where we are with this, Your Worship. So I will be in favor of this motion. It's certainly not an easy one to be in favor of, for sure. And Councillor Cox, I totally hear what you're saying. But it's unfortunately, it's a reality that we have been so far behind because we have not kept up with COLA. That's the most important part of this whole to me. Thank you, Your Worship.
Councillor Anderson.
Thank you, Your Worship. I would like to move that we split the question. The first 3 paragraphs be considered as one motion and the remaining 3 paragraphs as a second. And then that way we can deal with the, as Councillor Measures indicated, the important part of the first part of that motion is to bring us back into line with COLA increases. And so I think we should split the question, and I move for that.
We can do that, Patrick. Let me take a few more comments before we actually do that, and we will split the motion. So I've got Councillor McDonald, Councillor Bell, Councillor Gordon.
Thank you, Warden. It was a great, healthy debate at governance, and I still didn't change how I think about it. Is that it's a large increase at one point. I don't know that any council or our staff ever receives a increase of that large with that many individuals and whether it's that we are low now because of something that happened before, I still think the increment is too large for anyone to receive. I personally know that my colleagues have great gifts that they bring here, and I do agree with some of the comments saying that they're, to get younger people, I agree with it all, but to have one large increase instead of even breaking it down or looking at that, I have a difficult time to want to be able to support this at this time, and I do agree with Councillor Anderson to split that vote. Thank you.
Councillor Bell.
Yeah, I think just furthermore to what I said, we did get into this knowing, but none of us went out and compared other counties to see what their salaries were when we come in here. So I don't think it's as political as some of the comments I've heard. But I do want to go for, I would like to actually amend the motion to suggest that we implement it immediately in a tiered system to make it kind of a three-tiered increase to the next term to be the full amount. So this year we take a third of that, increase our current, the next year the same, and by the next year it would be up to the full salary. It seems like a reasonable way to increase it so that it's not one massive increase at one time, and we're getting close to where we should be. This has been neglected for a while, and I think it needs to be addressed.
Councillor Gordon.
Thank you, Warden. I think we've all gone through this in our municipalities, and in any equity exercise, catch-up is inevitable. It's no different than any collective agreement where there's been, freely negotiated increases, or even worse, if you're going to go to arbitration, now you have to pay retroactively. This is just what happens when you've neglected to keep up. So this isn't us, picking a number wildly out of the blue. This is a comprehensive review of what other municipalities tasked with the same work we do are paying their representatives, and it's just getting us to, not to the top of the list, but just catching us up. The longer we wait, the bigger that hit's going to be. Phasing it in now, I'd be against voting for anything that saw me getting an increase this term. I signed up for this. I knew what I was getting paid. I don't need an increase midstream. This is something we're invoking for the next term, and it will be factored into the cost of doing business, so they don't even need to phase it in. That's just the way it is. We've caught up and done the hard work for them. If we take a penny of this now, then it becomes a political mess. As long as we keep our hands off of it, and this is for the next term, I think we're just doing what we do, which is good governance. We recognize the salaries and the benefits, and to attract good people and keep good staff in this municipality. I think most of us have the expectation we want to be an employer of choice. Well, that doesn't just end outside of the board. That needs to include ourselves. Why would we treat this body any differently? Showing leadership is leading by example. And I'm not talking about padding our paychecks and then in turn then giving that as license to pass it along to staff. We work really hard to find good equity in our staff payment, both in the benefits and the salaries. And it just seems that for whatever reason, politically, we've just decided to artificially compress our own compensation. And now, here we are. Much like the conversation about reducing our size, we need to have that conversation. And the more we delay it, the more it's going to cost. So I think the years of neglect, and I'm not, using that in a really negative way. I think it was well intended. Everyone felt icky about, increasing the salaries, but we've all done it at our municipalities. No one feels great about it, but we recognize that it needs to be done, and it's always for the next term. So I would hope that we aren't going to be calling a question about putting that money onto our, in our wallets this term. But I certainly support the committee's recommendation and all the hard work and the vetting and the discussion and debate to arrive at option one. So I will be supporting option one, and I could hold my head high in my municipality and talk to why we're doing this and the fact that it's not benefiting me in the slightest unless they choose to send me back next term.
Thank you. Councillor Dolan.
Thank you. Very similar to what Councillor Hamlin and Councillor Gordon had to say. At our local municipality, we've been doing a review very similar to what the county did. The only difference is we used a committee of volunteers from the community also to weigh in, but it was always for the next term of council. I believe in a healthy democracy. I believe in getting our councils to look more like our residents look, and that requires certainty. It requires certainty about what you're going to make, if you're going to put your studies on hold, if you're going to put a family, if you've got to get daycare for your children. I can tell you my first year on council, I had a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old, and it cost me more in childcare than I made. So it is time that we become equal with our comparators across the province. And I think that the certainty for the next council who can do the math and decide whether they can afford to do this job or not is really important. And again, getting a more diverse council, I think will be a benefit to everyone. My only problem and the struggle I'm having with this is the optics of saying, yeah, we're increasing the size of our council by 1. Oh, and by the way, we're also increasing the salaries by a great deal. So I'm concerned about that, but I still think the best way forward, because this would not have to go through the triple majority. If I'm going to ask the clerk if he could just please confirm that the adding a person to council will require triple majority. However, the compensation review does not. And if I could just have clarity on that, thank you.
Through you, Warden Clark, to Councillor Dolan, or to Chair Dolan, that is correct. So the change, the addition of the 33rd member, as we discussed previously, that does trigger the triple majority process, but changes to council compensation does not trigger the triple majority process.
Okay, so listen, changing our salary is a political decision, but I mean, that's what we do here. We're politicians. Our job is to make every decision political. If you want to take the politics out of any decision, what you would do is you would enter the facts in a computer and it would spit out an answer, and that's what we would do. Buses go here. This road gets fixed. This happens here. A computer would make those decisions. Our job as politicians are to take the data and then look at what the people want and try and find that balance. So if you want to know what our salaries should be, it's right here. The data was entered in a computer. It spit out an answer. There it is. If you want to be non-political, there it is. I've heard the comments that, has this ever happened with staff? Actually, it did in Romero. We had a staff member getting paid $34,000, and after the pay equity, the salary came back at $55,000. So we put it immediately. Wasn't phased in, it was done immediately. Now, I understand that, some of us want to say put it the next term. I understand you signed up for the job. A lot of new councillors here. Did you know what the job was? I think you assumed when you took the job it would be fair compensation. And again, that's what the data shows. So we have to make the political decision. Do people want to see us get a raise? Absolutely not. Do they expect us to get paid a fair salary for what we do? And I think the answer is yes. And our fair salary is 60th percentile. We don't go for the 100th percentile. We go for the same rate of staff. This House has already decided that a fair compensation is the 60th percentile. So those are the decisions that are in front of you today. Will the people be offended by the percentage? Probably. But this council hasn't raised their pay in 20 years. So of course the numbers came back extreme. Will the people be offended by you paying yourself a fair salary? That's a decision you have to look at. I don't think they will be. I think you should implement it now. That's the way I would vote, because the data has come in. I have a card over here. Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you to the House. You know, Winston Churchill once said that the difference between a politician and a statesperson is a politician looks to the next election and a statesperson looks to the next generation. We were put here, I think, to look to the next generation. If we want to make political decisions to the next election so we may or may not get elected, we're here for the wrong reason. And, you often hear the other phrase that, Albert Einstein said, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. Well, this has been over 20 years that this House has sat and done the same thing over and over again and wonder why we're sitting where we're sitting today. I'd also like to point out that I'm sure there are people within this House, and there will be in future Houses, and there have been in past Houses, that are one of those individuals who is not independently wealthy. You know, as I look around this House, with the exception of the ladies, I see a lot of gray hair. I think we want to change that. And I think if we want to attract good young people who are thinking about the future and future generations, then these jobs need to pay a rate of pay that they can consider or will consider taking this on. Municipal World this month has some great articles in it, and one of these articles is talks about how many people in municipal politics, but also at the provincial and federal level, who have resigned in this term of council because of the pressures of social media and the hate talk and all of these things that is very different today than it ever used to be. And so if we want to attract good people, younger generations, to do what we do and to be proud of doing what we do, then we have a responsibility in this House today to start that process, to start making those changes, to not do the same thing again today and wondering why we have the same result next year or next term of council. I am absolutely fine with members of council, with politicians being paid fair amounts of money for the work they do. And there's a lot more work to it than the general public understands or maybe some want to admit. And it's not rocket science, but it's not easy. And we were elected to come to this House and in our municipalities, more importantly, to make tough decisions. Anyone can make easy decisions. But we're elected to make tough decisions. And I think the responsibility lies on this House today to fix this 20-plus year problem. It's mind-boggling, and I'm guilty of it. I mean, I sat from 14 to 18 in this House, and we didn't increase anything. So I take part of that blame, and I accept that responsibility. But it's time to fix this. Thank you, Your Worship.
Do I have any other comments? Because I did have a request to separate motions. If okay. Okay, so I need a mover and seconder for the original motion that's coming out of governance to get it on the floor. Moved by Deputy Warden, second by Councillor Evans. So now to split the motion, correct? Anderson, you will move that. Can I have a seconder to split the Councillor Fowler? So now we will work on the COLA. Any other comments on putting the COLA back in so that the salary is updated annually? Not seeing any, so, Councillor Fryer, yes.
I just want to add to my earlier comments because I did indicate no support. I think Simcoe County residents get a very good value for dollars on their governance. I'm not so sure about the other counties that we're using as comparators. Maybe they're not, and maybe they're high and where we should be. I don't know. I'm just only looking at this as Simcoe County, and as I said, I can't argue status quo on the number, and I didn't support the additional for that reason. I did say at the time, I think there should be fewer immunities in Simcoe County, and that would be fewer councillors, and you'd make your compensation adjustments then, and Simcoe County residents would still getting a very good value for dollars. So I'm not going to support this. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments on the COLA adjustment? All in favor? Oh, Councillor Measures.
Thank you. I just want to reiterate, Your Worship, again, how important this is to me to recognize some of the, lack of decisions that had made in the past. And I think that this, moving this forward as a House clearly puts us in a position where we see that there are future increases available, and the Treasury can predict those and can put those right into each budget year. And I think that makes it total sense and very transparent for all the residents who are concerned about our budgets. I also want to point out too that the non-union salary base is of course adjusted based on the negotiations that happen with the union employees. So it's a well-vetted system to come to that number, and I think that's very appropriate that that this House support the COLA adjustments as presented in this motion.
Thank you. Any other comments on the COLA? Councillor Gordon.
Thanks. I'll just add into that. So, I mean, clearly I was on the record as being in favor of reducing our size, which would lend nicely into, fixing the compensation. Wasn't in favor of, the term I used was bloat, of getting us to one more, although I do support the concept entirely of a full-time warden. Remember, for those, but the council, our county, our body has made the decision. So that's the way it is, and it's going to go out to our municipalities, and we'll get to debate and discuss it there. And ultimately, it'll trickle up to the province and the minister. And, the minister could look at this even after we've weighed in through our municipalities and through this House and go, no. And they could wave their magic wand and something else could happen. Or they could just hold us the way we were. So let's not conflate the fact that, we made this decision to, grow our size with a rationale for not approving proper compensation. They're really mutually exclusive in my mind, even though they do have a combined net effect. The reality is that is not something that's been sanctioned or approved by the ministry yet. So let's deal with the compensation issue on its face, COLA, and all the normal things that would go with compensation, and the size thing that, of course, balloons those costs. Let's let that process play out in our municipalities and ultimately with the ministry and see where the chips fall. I'd hate to see us defeat something that's progressive and long overdue because we're unhappy with the outcome of a potential reduction that we didn't do.
Thank you. Any other comments on the COLA? It's just the COLA we're voting on. Councillor Bell.
I'm just asking for clarification on it, what it is and when we're taking effect. Like, what are we voting on right now? What's on the table?
Patrick, go ahead.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Through you, Warden Clark. So the original motion as recommended by Governance Committee was put on the floor, and then the two questions were separated. So the first three paragraphs, which are on the floor currently, are that item GOV 2024-211 dated October 15th, 2024 regarding governance workshop follow-up, council compensation options be received, and that the yearly adjustments to council base salary levels be applied by foregoing an annual COLA adjustment and applying a percentage equal to the average of the County of Simcoe non-union salary band adjustments to take effect immediately for the remainder of the 2022 to 2026 term of council, and that the necessary bylaw be presented to set compensation paid to members of council. So currently on the floor is just the COLA adjustment that would take effect for the remainder of 2022 to 2026.
Okay, if everybody's clear on that, seeing no further questions, all in favor of that motion? Opposed, if any? One opposed. That was carried. So now, the original motion, correct? Yes, what we have now.
Through you, Warden Clark. So the second three paragraphs, which were divided out, are that the following direction take effect at the beginning of the 2026 to 2030 term of council, that option one within report GOV 2024-211 regarding the base salary for the warden and base salary and per diem rates for councillors be approved, and that the base salary for the deputy warden be maintained at $55,041.
Councillor Bell.
Well, that's confusing now because we just voted to take effect immediately.
The COLA to take effect immediately, but not
the full adjustment.
Not the full adjustment.
Okay, thank you.
So that's what's on the floor now, is that the full adjustment and it take effect 2026 to the 2030 term. That is what is on the floor at the moment. If there's no other comments or amendments, Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm not in support of it, but I voted for maintaining the House the way it is on the last vote because of the cost of governance. It was very effective. And for our residents, I thought they were getting great value. So more than doubling the cost of governance isn't something that I can support. But if I could ask through you to the clerk, if we could have a recorded vote on this, please.
Yes, we can. Councillor Bell.
I'm going to put my motion on the floor of the amendment then to increase in the 3 stages as I spoke, divide the increase by 3 and go for this year, following year, and full implementation for the new council. I don't know if I have a seconder.
Seconder with Councillor Greenlaw. So the amendment to the motion now is that it be phased in over 3 years. So full effect would take effect 2026. Councillor Dolan.
Clarification then, can I ask for a recorded vote for that motion, or do I need to?
I believe we can, yes. For the amendment.
For the amendment,
yep.
I believe that yes.
Yeah, yes, we can. Any other comments on the amendment? I can support the amendment. I feel it should be the full amount now, but I understand when you're looking at that big a load. My concern with pushing it off to 2026, again, political decision that I've talked on, that's fine, that's our job. It can become an election issue, because that happened in my home municipality. When we pushed off a raise in salary to the next term, it became a campaign issue, and the ones that elected, the majority of them, agreed not to take the increase and squashed it the first day they come in, and again regretted it by the end of the term. Until we actually put a real value in place, I was the youngest one on council for a lot of years, and I kept getting older, and I was still the youngest one on council until we did the same pay equity and set the salary the way it should be. I now have younger members, including some single parents on my council, which we've never seen before. So fair play, fair salary, I'd like to see in place prior to the next council, not the decision of the next council to make the same political decision and then decide not to raise the pay before they even know what the job entails. I have Councillor Cox and then McKellen. Thank you.
So I just need a clarification. If we pass the motion that option 1 will start from 26 to 30, does that not mean that that's done, or can the council coming in just say no? Because we're talking, Patrick. I've heard different comments about, well, when the new council comes in, they can spread it out. You just finished saying, well, somebody could take it away. Like, I'm not clear on this. I thought that if it was voted for, then that meant that's what would happen in 2026.
Patrick?
So that's correct. If it's voted for, then that would take effect for 2026. The way the wording is currently, if it was voted for, then it would take effect at the beginning of the 2026 to 2030 term. That being said, council could always revisit compensation in the future if they wanted to adjust it.
Then another clarification is, if we vote for the amendment, it says here regarding the base salary for the warden, that's for a full-time warden, not a part-time warden.
I will not argue that. I think you would need to deal with that one directly. Yeah. But the phase-in would actually work out that you wouldn't be at that compensation until the next term.
But it's still a full-time warden salary.
Correct. So we could pull that if we wish.
I'm just saying if that amendment happens to pass, we need to look at that. Okay, thank
and
you.
I would have no issue with that. I did have Councillor McKellen and then Councillor Measures, I think is all I've seen for hands.
Thank you, Warden. I'd be remiss if I didn't say a few words for my generation. There are significant barriers in getting into politics. Personally, the ones that I faced was I am of a younger generation. I'm a single parent, and I'm female. And I've told this House before, I have my 2 jobs with the town and the county. I also have 2 other jobs. And I still wouldn't make the sunshine list if I added them all together. So it is, what politicians get paid is a significant barrier in attracting the younger generation to these jobs. And we need to do that because We need their voice on these councils. It needs to be available for people to decide to run for council. And it's not accessible and it's not inclusive. It is a job, absolutely, for the independently wealthy or the retired or the pensioners. None of those things which I'll ever be. I don't have a pension. I'm not independently wealthy. And it takes an immense amount of effort and energy to be able to produce as a politician, as a younger politician who still has kids at home, a single parent. So I do support paying a fair wage and being able to attract more people to run for these positions. It's important that we get a diverse group of people, and I'm not sure we can say that many of not only our local councils, but our upper tier councils are not very diverse at all. Thank you.
Councillor Measures.
I'm very impressed with what the councillors just said, and I appreciate and thank her for her words, and acknowledge too that you're making a big impact in this house, so thank you for being here. If I may, I'd like to go back to what Councillor Cox asked, and I wonder if our general manager might be able to comment. I made my comments earlier about the budget for 2027, Your Worship, and I mentioned that the original motion here would place this into the budget of 2027, given the council elected in the fall of 26 would be reviewing the budget. And so I just want a clarification, if I may, from the general manager on how that mechanically would work, that we would pass this resolution, apply it to the budget of 2027, but that budget would then be approved by a new house. So, Your Worship?
Right, Trevor, you are nodding yes, and yes, the new house would, if they felt necessary, would adjust the salary at that time.
Right. So I'm just looking for the mechanics of how that works, because Judith was concerned, Councillor Cox was concerned about whether we're making this locked in. It's only locked in when you vote for the budget each year. Is that correct?
Correct. Go ahead, Trevor. Okay, it is correct. Sorry, I didn't. Go ahead, Trevor. Anything to add?
Through the chair, through the chair, yes. It would be locked in from the perspective of the draft budget that would be sent to council. That council that can make any amendments to the budget, just like you can for any of the budget that's going to be presented to you next week. I do want to clarify with the vote on the third gradual increase. My recommendation would be that that takes effect for next year's budget, then the year after, and then the year after. So it's those 3 years that are staggered, not a retro that would impact the current year, unless that's what you want to have happen. I just want to clarify whether that's the intent for that motion. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much for your answer, and I appreciate that every council, even this council, can make decisions on the budget that we look at that we're going to be seeing next week, right? So, okay, thank you, Your Worship.
So I am clarifying that is your intent. 2025 would be a third, 2026 would be a third, 2027 would be the final, correct?
Correct. No retro. I believe that just moving forward, that takes the political piece out of it because we're just showing that we're trying to be reasonable with the people and the tax money as well.
All right. Any other comments on the amendment? Councillor Duke and then Councillor Gordon, yes.
So thank you, Warden. And I've sat here listening to the conversations, and I can tell you that at the Governance Committee, and I thank Councillor McClellan for saying that, I spoke up for that generation. My choice is to change the color of the hair in this House, and I respect the fact that we need to look at the next generation coming into this business. And, you know, I did it in Bradford. We did a raise, and the reason I did it was to attract younger generation, to bring other people in. I thought, you know what, if we could put a salary on the table where we have 2 working parents going down the highway or going to work and one making an average of $60,000 a year, they could end up staying home, support their community, be a counselor, maybe be part of the school system, be part of the community on that type of salary because it wouldn't impact their financial burden when it came to raising their children and things like that. So my thoughts are, and I do support Councillor Bell's motion of a third. I want to take it out of the political arena because you leave it to 27 council, it becomes an election issue in that, at that time, and then people have the right, and then they all of a sudden walk in and say, oh, well, we'll just let it go through because it's been done. But it becomes a political issue while you're out campaigning. To me, this House is well underpaid. I've said it for 10 years here. This House is well underpaid. Nobody would come to work like this for $18,000 a year. $12,000 plus $6,000 for your per diem. So there's nobody that would work like that. We talk about a living wage in this county. We want all of our staff to have a living wage. Why shouldn't we have a living wage? If you are honest to the residents and tell them the work you actually do out there to sit on this council, you will be able to justify any increase when it comes to this, especially this increase, because this is not an exorbitant amount of money. This is a, take that, and I agree with Councillor Gordon, take that vote that we made without reducing our council. If we reduced our council, there would be zero impact really when it comes down to it. But we haven't done that. But we should be compensating ourselves fairly to do this job because it is a lot of work and we miss a generation when we don't make that pay scale fair for people. So I'm all about making this fair, and I like the fact of breaking into 3 separate impacts because it's not a huge budget increase when you talk about our salary being at $47,000 over that 3 terms is really minimal. In Bradford, it broke down to 0.015% to bring our salaries up. And it was done to bring a next generation in. I became the oldest member on our council, and I look forward to seeing younger members sitting on these councils to bring those new ideas and new opportunities for the Simcoe residents. So I will support the motion put on the floor by Councillor Bell. Thank you.
And Deputy Warden, did you have your hand up, Bill, as well, or no? Okay, so Deputy Warden, go ahead, then Councillor Gordon, then Councillor Locke.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm agreeing with what I'm hearing here, and the only concern I have is that giving ourselves a raise today does not attract people for the next term of council. I think those issues are very separate. I don't disagree that we're underpaid, but I have great issue with giving myself a raise. I 100% agree that the next term of council needs to be paid fairly and adequately, and we need to take down the barriers that do exist, and we can do that with compensation, but paying ourselves more today does not attract politicians for the next term.
Councillor Gordon.
Thanks. I'll echo some of that. I don't disagree with Councillor Duke either. I mean, we need to properly pay and compensate people. It was great when we didn't know. Now we know. We got to do something with it. My concern is the optics. I get that phasing this in isn't a huge financial hit, but the optics are terrible, that we're giving ourselves a raise. A quick, my colleague just confirmed for me that there is an exemption in the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act that allows us to, set aside what would normally be seen as a direct pecuniary interest in giving ourselves a raise. It's in there obviously for a reason, but still feels icky. And I just don't know what the benefit is. The benefit, we all signed up for this job. We knew it was paying 18, right, and change, depending if you're a chair or not. We knew that when we came into the place. So we can ride out another couple of years on what we knew coming in. If the public sends us back here or doesn't, then next term, that's the starting block. I don't know why anyone would campaign on reversing the salaries at county. That doesn't make any sense to me. They're not exorbitant, what we're suggesting, and it does open up possibilities for single parents and for people who are, generally lower income to get involved in municipal politics. I'm blessed to have that kind of age diversity in my council, as many of you are as well. So we're starting to see that barrier crack, and we haven't done great things with our wages, even of our local councils. I mean, they went up a couple $1,000s, and we're still seeing some attraction. So I wholeheartedly agree in the increase. I think the one that's the most expensive, option 1, really does make the most sense to get us, let's just rip the Band-Aid off and get it done for next term. But I'm struggling with the fact that I can't support this phase-in because we're doing it to ourselves. And I'd really like to see this take effect for 2026, and I could, again, defend this wholeheartedly to the electorate out there. But as soon as I'm starting to, better my own position, when I knew what I signed up for, and I knew what the compensation was going to be, it looks pretty disingenuous. So I can't support this amendment, unfortunately, although in spirit I do, but in practice I can't. And I do support the, let's get this started for 2026.
Councillor Locke.
Thank you, through your worship. I'm just looking for clarity too again. So this phase in, we are looking at let's say, 3 stages, this is going to affect us personally? Or is it 3 stages budgetarily that we're going to phase in budget-wise so that when we get to 2026, the full amount of option 1 is now not such a huge hit because we have phased it in through 3 budgets?
It would be the earlier. It would be phased in through budget, but also affect your salary. 30% increase next year, 30% increase the year after, and the full increase come into effect for the new term of council.
Okay, thank you. I can't support that.
Okay, so I will get the Councillor Greenlaw.
Thank you, Your Worship. You know, this is a hard decision. I appreciate everyone's input, but I honestly think Councillor Bell has put forward a motion that is palatable for all, so we're working our way to the end. To defer this to the next term is making this a political issue. So we have to make hard decisions, whether it's building roads or replacing bridges, and we don't defer it to the next term in order that it's not a popular vote to some people versus others. So on that note, I'd like to put a motion forward to call the vote now. I think we've discussed this long enough and move forward, please.
Patrick, if you would reread the motion so everybody's clear on it. We're going to share our screen. Perfect. Possibly with the new technology. The wall might catch on fire. We're not sure yet. I believe by the next meeting, you're going to have new technology again. You'll have to figure out Chris, so it should be a fun time.
The first paragraph would be, I assume the amendment would include taking out that first paragraph, and then paragraph 3 would be included in place of that, and it would be that the increases set out in option 1 be phased in over the next 3 years, beginning 2025, 2026, and 2027, with 1/3 being allocated per year.
Anybody need clarification now on the amendment? We have a recorded vote requested. Councillor Snell?
Thank you, Your Worship. To one of the other councillors' points, would the warden piece have to come out of that?
That would be another motion I would entertain after passing this.
Okay, thank
And
you.
then, because yes, this table 1 includes a full-time warden, which next term is a full-time warden. Well, it's proposed. This term, it's not. So that would be the next motion that I'd look for an amendment to deal with the warden's salary specifically, and I would declare a conflict on that because you'd be talking about the salary to the end of this term, and it looks like, from what I've heard this morning, that will put me in a conflict. Councillor McDonald, clarification?
Yes, thank you, Warden. So we're doing, as we seen that motion, we are going to be voting as if it's a full-time warden, though, because it has not been taken out. Am I correct?
We could pull.
Because I think
go
that
ahead,
has to.
Patrick, if you want to explain it.
So currently, the way it's worded, option 1 within the report does include an increase for the warden. Option 1 in the report was not framed necessarily around a full-time warden because this was completed before and there's still, the triple majority process. So, but the way that option 1 is framed, it would include an increase for the warden. If the amendment passed and the paragraph was added in that the increases be, bridged over the 3 years, a further amendment could be brought to further specify that option 1 only with respect to the councillors. I would develop the wording there, but that option 1 only with respect to the councillors be approved, and we could separate out the piece for the warden. So that could be done.
Would you prefer that? Yes?
Thank you, Warden. I just think that we're doing the $180-some thousand is a full-time wage that we are actually voting on. So regardless if it's a part-time or not, that means that the part-time, as far as what you're going on, if you want to say it's part-time or it's full, because we haven't got a full-time yet, so we're doing part-time, that makes the 180-something. Then you're going to take that back out. Would it not be more fair to a vote to actually have the wage that a part-time would have, because we don't know anything, and then it would be increased
right
when you do get that, because that's confusing.
Why don't we, if it's okay with the mover and seconder, can we just add to the motion that the warden's salary be pulled out at this point and discussed separately, because I will declare a conflict on that
Yeah,
one.
that's
because that is directly my salary. There is nobody else. Next term, I don't have a conflict on because it could be anybody. But for the remainder of this term, yeah, I have a conflict. Councillor Anderson, clarification is what I'm looking for.
Yes, clarification through to the clerk. Would council not be required to pass a bylaw to further compensation? And if this vote goes ahead today, could there not be further discussion on the warden's salary at the time of the bylaw rather than today?
So technically that is true. So the intent of the first motion, the first piece of the question that was split out, does include that a base salary, or sorry, it does include that the necessary bylaw be presented to set compensation paid to members of council. So the intent is to capture all of the changes to compensation should they go through in a bylaw, which technically could be addressed at that time. I think if a bylaw came forward, you wouldn't normally amend bylaws right on the spot. I would suggest that that's something that perhaps could be referred back to staff. It's a bit unusual to have a bylaw referred back to staff. That could occur, but it is not that common. But a bylaw will be coming back, yes.
So what I'm suggesting, just to make it clean for Councillor McDonald and clarification, and with the mover and seconder, which were Bell and Greenlaw, that they also just delete the warden out of that, and that'll be a separate discussion. And I will leave the room and I will hand the chair over to the deputy warden to handle that one, because that would be a conflict, because you're talking my salary to the end of this term. So, so with that, on the amendment, if warden has been removed from the amendment, everybody's clear on the amendment, the phase in? Recorded vote was requested. It's over to you, Patrick. Yeah.
So just to be clear on the slight further changes to the amendment, so it would be that option 1 regarding councillor salaries only within report GOV 2024-211 regarding the base salary and per diem rates for councillors be approved. So that wouldn't include an approval for the change in the warden's salary. That the increases set out in option 1 be phased in over the next 3 years, beginning 2025, 2026, and 2027, with 1/3 being allocated per year, and that the base salary for the deputy warden be maintained at $55,041.
Okay, recorded vote. So asked, requested by Councillor Dolan. Patrick?
So with respect to the recorded vote, that is also a weighted vote. So I'll begin with the person who requested the vote and ending with the warden. So Councillor Dolan, can you please indicate if you're in favor or opposed?
Opposed.
Councillor Evans?
In favor.
Councillor Fowler?
In favor.
Councillor Fryer?
Opposed.
Councillor Gordon?
Opposed, and I'm just going to declare that, for the same rationale that the warden is not participating in his own pay increase, I'm being asked to vote on my own pay increase. I don't see the difference. If you feel I have a conflict, I think I have a conflict. So I'm voting opposed, but I'm also saying that...
Point of order, this is a vote.
Yeah, there should
I'm opposed. I just wanted to declare the conflict publicly. Thank you.
Councillor Greenlaw?
In favor.
Councillor Hamlin?
In favor.
Councillor Laux?
Opposed.
Councillor LaRose?
In favor.
Councillor Lavoie?
In favor.
Councillor Leduc?
In favor.
Councillor McDonald?
Opposed.
Councillor McLennan?
In favor.
Councillor Measures?
In favor.
Councillor Miskimins,
Opposed?
Councillor Norcross,
In favor.
Councillor Norris,
Opposed.
Councillor Prost,
In favor.
Councillor Rawson,
In favor?
Councillor Sandhu,
Opposed.
Councillor Brian Smith,
In favor?
Councillor Michael Smith,
Opposed.
Councillor Snell,
In favor?
Councillor Van Staveren,
In favor?
Councillor Walker,
In favor.
Councillor Anderson,
Opposed?
Councillor Bell,
In favor.
Councillor Burkett,
Opposed.
and Councillor Cabral is absent. Deputy Warden Coughlin,
Opposed?
Councillor Cox,
Opposed?
and Warden Clark.
In favor?
If you'll give me one moment to tabulate.
What do you have first, Patrick?
Thank you for the moment there. So the weighted vote is 86 in favor and 55 opposed, so the motion carries.
Okay. And so next one will be the warden's salary, and actually in a sidebar, I was reminded my term actually ends shortly. So it is not, oh, go ahead. Yeah. Yes. Oh. That was for the amendment, so now we need the vote on the motion as amended. I would expect the same outcome, but on the motion to bring the new salary in phases. I'll get you to put it up, Patrick, so there's no verification. Deputy Warden, yes.
Thank you, Warden Clark. And just on the procedure, if we vote on the main motion as amended, the motion will have been passed, and where is the opportunity then for us to discuss the warden's salary? Would that not be a further amendment at this time?
So since the amendment has passed, if it's voted through, then the councillor salaries as reflected in option 1 would be approved, and they would be phased in over the next 3 years. And then there would be the opportunity for a new motion to come forward with respect to the warden's salary only.
Okay, so we'll get the main motion on the floor, or on the wall if we can, so everybody can see it. And I did have a mover and a seconder on the main motion, though I can't remember who it was. It's been a while ago. Do you have the mover and seconder, or do I need? Yeah. Yes.
Your Worship?
Yes.
Councillor Smith had also requested a recorded motion on this motion.
Okay, so it'll be a recorded vote on this one as well. We're just going to get it up on the screen here, and I believe I had a mover and a seconder for the original motion, but we'll verify that. Did I have?
So the mover and the seconder are so the original, basically, like we had the original mover and seconder, then it was split, so the original mover and seconder were Coughlin and Evans, which would still be the case here because the motion is split out, so we don't need a mover.
So the original mover I have for the motion prior to getting all split was Coughlin and Evans. So that's the original motion that is on the floor now. Yes, I know, you're voting against it, but you can do that, yes.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm just looking again for clarity and through our deputy clerk. So as this motion stands, the warden's salary has not been formally pulled from this. So we are voting the warden's salary as part of this. So I'm just looking for clarification on that, because I heard earlier that we would pull the warden's salary and deal with it separately, but nowhere have I seen it being pulled.
The amendment removed it, but go ahead.
So the intent here with the wording is that option one, like basically what is up for vote here now, it's the councillor's salaries, but only within option one and only the councillor's salaries. So the intent of the wording of paragraph 1 here would be to only approve the councillor's salaries and per diem rates within option 1. So there would not be any component of the warden's salary approved through what I have here. And then my suggestion would be that a new motion could be brought forward just specifically dealing with the warden's salary following this.
Everybody's clear? So I have a mover and a seconder. Recorded vote requested by Councillor Michael Smith.
Councillor Smith, if you could please indicate your vote.
Well, I do have a clarification, Randy. Councillor Greenlaw?
I'm wondering about, do we do an amendment to this motion? You know, there's a deputy to the end of this term, and it's still not, it's not classified as a full-time position. So should we do, just add the council component increase, a third to the warden's salary as of now forward, and then make the full change when the new term starts?
Well, we have to decide, oh, I see, you're saying a third on the 180.
No, on like it would be parallel to the council increase.
Well, I know, but the council increase is table 1. That's the one you're using, and the warden's salary in table 1 is 181,000, which would be in line when you have a full-time warden, because that comparator used part-time and full-time wardens. I would personally suggest you use table 2 for the warden's salary, because that removes all the full-time wardens till the remainder of this term. But, so I would just leave the warden's salary out and deal with it after. I think it's cleaner. Yes, Councillor Cox.
Yeah, through the chair, though, I think what Councillor Greenlaw was trying to say is that you're taking this and going forward, and you could do the same with your salary right now and add on to it and go forward, because the full-time won't start until 2026 if it goes through.
Oh, I see. So you just take my salary today, add 30% and add 30%?
You could do that, yeah, but just the fact that it's the fact that the full-time won't come till 2026.
Right.
So now it's made a difference because we've gone back and done a third. Before it was just going to start in 2026. So that's where the full-time warden would have started.
So then
Do you understand where I'm going?
Well,
Patrick?
I just need to know what the end goal you're aiming for if you're doing a 30.
Because you're going to take your salary now and start to increase it so that in 2026 it's not a big kick.
Right.
Which everybody here that's why we did the amendment. Thank you.
Patrick will speak to that.
So Councillor Greenlaw, just to clarify, is your intent basically that the increases with respect to the councillors be applied to the warden as well? So for example, the warden's salary would be increased for the next 3 years, 2025, 2026, and 2027, in basically the same amount as for a councillor. And then the question about the sort of full-time change to the warden's salary, that could be dealt with separately today or another day, and that's where you would look to have the sort of full increase, for example, from option 1 take effect following the 3 years of increases that are similar to the amount for a councillor.
Correct.
So I need to understand the math here myself. So you're going to take table 1 and just phase it in, knowing that the warden's salary will hit that target in 2027. Is that what everybody's? Councillor Bell.
From what I understand is just an example. So if the increase for a councillor in the first third is a $10,000 increase, you would receive that same $10,000 increase. That's my understanding of what's been put on the floor.
Is that what you're saying? Okay.
Okay.
Gotcha. All right. Okay.
If he wants to have that amendment, need a seconder for it.
You'd need a seconder for that amendment, if that, so Greenlaw, you will move that, and right, and so, but then the full warden salary would take effect in 2027? Does that?
Only if that's voted for. It's now been pulled out.
Right. You know, so if the amendment puts it back in, it's the same dollar increase as the counselors get, not a percentage, just the dollar value, correct?
Correct.
I just wanted to understand where the math was coming from, okay. And I found out that I don't have a conflict because, yeah, it's may not be for me. So on the amendment, is everybody clear on the amendment? So the warden's salary would go up the same dollar value as each counselor for the next 2 years, and then the table 1 salary would come into effect 2027, correct? If approved. Councillor Anderson, on the amendment.
Yeah, thank you. Is it possible to take a few minutes and get that wording on the screen so
Yes,
that
we want to make sure everybody's clear, yes. Yes.
So that additional amendment, the second amendment here, moved by Councillor Greenlaw and seconded by Councillor Bell, would add paragraph 3 so that the warden's existing salary be increased consistent with the amount for councillors as approved through option 1 to be phased in over the next 3 years, being 2025, 2026, and 2027, with 1/3 being allocated per year.
Yes. I'm just looking, and it says 1/3, as long as you're not using the 1/3 of the 181. That was the concern. Okay, all right, all right. Okay. Requested vote, recorded vote, or no, there's an amendment we have to deal with first.
Recorded vote is on the actual.
Is on the actual motion, not on the amendment. So which one have I got on the floor there? Patrick, help me out here.
So
We
right
have a new
now,
amendment.
correct. Right now, the amendment from Councillor Greenlaw and Councillor Bell is on the floor. There's been no recorded vote requested on that amendment. The recorded vote from Councillor Michael Smith was requested for the
salary
motion.
back in at the same increase as councillors and the new one taking effect. Clarification, Councillor Van Staveren.
Just a quick question. Should we be putting the warden and deputy warden in that same category?
Well, the recommendation for deputy warden was the salary stay the same.
But I don't think that's right. It's, you know, we got a person who's going to be doing the same thing again for 4 more years. Why should they not be incremental in matching what we've just said for the warden as well?
We're actually at governance going to deal with the deputy warden because the goal now is to go to a full-time warden, so then we have to decide the fate of the deputy warden. So that's why the recommendation was the deputy warden's salary stay the same until such time as governance puts out new terms surrounding what a deputy warden will look like.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so I think I answered that correctly, Madam Chair. All right, so this is on the amendment, which just puts the warden's salary back in. So all in favor of the amendment? Any opposed? One opposed. One, two, three, four, five. That's on the amendment. Okay. Curious, but all right. So the motion as amended, is that the one that's on the board? Correct. Recorded vote by Councillor Smith. Anything to say before the vote, sir?
I think I've expressed myself. We had a lot of discussion.
Okay.
Okay, as previously, so the recorded vote will also be a weighted vote, starting with Councillor Michael Smith. If you could please indicate your vote if you're in favor or opposed.
Opposed.
Councillor Snell.
In favor?
If we do that, then only one can do the recorded vote. So that's, yeah. Well, we are, yeah. Okay. If the computer goes up in smoke, I'll let you know.
Okay. Councillor Snell.
In favor?
Councillor Van Staveren.
In favor?
Councillor Walker.
In favor.
Councillor Anderson.
Opposed?
Councillor Bell.
In favor.
Councillor Burkett.
Opposed.
Councillor Cabral. Oh, sorry, my apologies. Councillor Cabral is absent. Deputy Warden Coughlin.
Opposed.
Councillor Cox.
Opposed.
Councillor Dolan.
Opposed.
Councillor Evans. Councillor Fowler.
In favor.
Councillor Fryer.
Opposed.
Councillor Gordon.
Opposed.
Councillor Greenlaw.
In favor.
Councillor Hamlin.
In favor.
Councillor Laux.
Opposed.
Councillor LaRose.
In favor.
Councillor Lavoie.
In favor.
Councillor Leduc.
In favor?
Councillor McDonald.
Opposed.
Councillor McLennan.
In favor.
Councillor Measures.
In favor?
Councillor Miskimins.
In favor.
Councillor Norcross.
In favor.
Councillor Norris.
Opposed.
Councillor Prost.
In favor.
Councillor Rawson.
In favor.
Councillor Sondu.
Opposed.
Councillor Brian Smith.
In favor?
And Warden Clark.
In favor.
If you'll just give us a moment here to tabulate. Okay, so the recorded vote is 91 in favor and 50 opposed, so the motion carries.
Thank you. Does that bring an end to governance?
No, that's all of the amendments.
Yes?
Oh, yeah, sorry, yeah, that is the main motion.
Okay, so, okay, we've just put governance to bed. Presentations and considerations. No, it's already dealt with in that motion, correct? Yep,
Yeah.
good. All right, perfect. So we have no county officers' reports, no notices of motions which have been previously given, no new notices of motion, no closed session. So consideration of the bills. Councillor Norcross.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you, of course, moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Burkett. The bills number 709824 and 7099-24 be enacted as bylaws of the County of Simcoe. Thank you.
We will, before we go to the next one. Okay, on those bills, any questions or comments? All in favor? That is carried. We are now under announcements. So I'll start with the first one that, as I mentioned during the October 8th meeting, County of Simcoe had its annual employee service recognition banquet. And at that time, I was missing a few councillors that have been here a while. So now I want to recognize two of our councillors at this table, Councillor Leduc for 10 years service here at Simcoe County, and I'd like to present you with a pin. We can do it here. Can I get Jenny to take a picture of it? Oh, Raj is on it. And I have one more who served a very short time here, 20 years at Simcoe Council and 30 years on Severn Council, Councillor Judith Cox. And actually, if I can get all three of these up again for a picture, because it's actually these three councillors that got their pins. Okay.
I forgot my pen. I'll pretend I have it. Thank you.
Thank you. And of course, for 30 years, I'm sure Severn is declaring a holiday, and there'll be a big party and a cake. Is there any other announcements today? Yes? Oh, yes. I wanted to highlight that we did the childhood proclamation. It was in my proclamation, but at the Early Childhood Education Week. So I would just wanted to shine a highlight on that we did make that proclamation. So if there's nothing else, before I turn the chair over for our midterm nominations, why don't we take a quick bathroom break, everybody, and if we can come back here in 10 minutes. And then I will actually turn the meeting over to Patrick, and we'll be sitting out in the audience. All right. So with that, I will now turn the meeting over to Patrick, and we are actually leaving the podium.
Thank you, Warden Clark. One more? Okay, thank you.
I think we have everybody, Patrick, or?
We will begin now. So thank you very much, Warden Clark. In accordance with the procedure bylaw, county councillors must elect one from among themselves to be the lead of council or to be the head of council, referred to as the warden, and one elected official to be deputy warden. Nominations of elected officials other than the current incumbents will trigger a midterm inaugural meeting to be held on December 10th, 2024. It's important to note that should a midterm inaugural meeting be held, no new or additional nominations for warden or deputy warden shall be permitted, as today is nomination day. Before I open the floor for nominations, I'll briefly explain the procedure for nominations, for nominating the warden, and then subsequently the same procedure will be applied to nominate the deputy warden. So first, I'll call for nominations 3 times, and when the nominations have been closed, I will ask all candidates to advise council whether they wish to stand for or decline the nomination. The mover and seconder, as well as the candidate for warden or deputy warden, will be permitted to address council for a combined total of not more than 5 minutes. Candidates will be called in the order that they're nominated in. So are there any questions from members of council before I open the floor for nominations? Not seeing any questions. We'll begin with the nomination for the position of warden. So I'll call for nominations 3 times. So members of council, this is the first call. Are there any nominations for the office of warden? Councillor Brian Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. I nominate Basil Clark for warden.
Thank you very much. Is there a seconder for that nomination? Councillor McDonald.
Yes, I'd be honored to second the Basil Clark for warden.
Thank you very much. Not seeing any further nominations, I'll proceed to the second call. So this is the second call. Are there any further nominations for the office of warden? Not seeing any further nominations, I'll proceed to the third call. So this is the third and final call. Are there any further nominations for the office of warden? Not seeing any. So we'll proceed now to the closure of the nominations for the position of warden. So if there are no further nominations, do I have a mover that the nominations be closed? Councillor Measures. And could I have a seconder for that? Councillor Sandhu. So the motion is that nominations be closed for the office of warden. Can I see all in favor or opposed? Any opposed? Thank you. The motion's carried. If you'll give me one moment here. So now we'll move to the acceptance of the warden nominations. Warden Clark, you've been nominated for the office of warden. Do you wish to accept the nomination or decline?
I will accept the nomination. Thank you.
Thank you. So members of council, the County of Simcoe warden for the 2024 to 2026 remainder of that term by acclamation is Warden Clark. Warden Clark. Warden Clark, would you like to address council?
Very briefly, because I know everybody wants to get on with your day. Listen, thank you very much. Thank you for your support for the last 2 years, and I've tried to get around to meet everybody and tried to be open. I absolutely will accept criticism if you feel there's any way that I'm maybe falling short over the next 2 years. So thank you very much for your support. From the bottom of my heart, I'm choked up. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So then we'll proceed to the position of Deputy Warden, and I will call for nominations. So before I open the floor for nominations for the position of Deputy Warden, the procedure bylaw provides that the election of the Deputy Warden shall be the same as that for the Warden. Are there any questions from members of council regarding the election procedure, or sorry, the nomination procedure before I open the floor for nominations? Not seeing any questions, I'll proceed to the first call. So members of council, this is the first call. Are there any nominations for the office of Deputy Warden? Councillor Dolan.
Thank you, Deputy Clerk. I would like to nominate Jennifer Coughlin for the position of Deputy Warden.
Thank you very much, Councillor Dolan. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Norcross.
Thank you. I'd like to second that nomination for Deputy Warden for Councillor Coughlin, please.
Thank you very much, Councillor Norcross. Not seeing any further nominations, I'll proceed to the second call. So this is the second call. Are there any nominations for the office of Deputy Warden? Not seeing any, I'll proceed to the third call. So this is the third and final call. Are there any nominations for the office of Deputy Warden? Seeing none, we'll proceed to closure of the Deputy Warden nominations. So if there are no further nominations, do I have a mover that nominations be closed? Councillor Walker. And do I have a seconder? Councillor Laux. So the motion is that nominations be closed for the office of Deputy Warden. Can I please see who's in favor and if there are any opposed? Thank you. The motion is carried. So just for the purposes of following procedure, Deputy Warden Coughlin, you have been nominated for the office of Deputy Warden. Do you wish to accept that nomination or decline?
I accept. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Deputy Warden. So members of council, the county or the Deputy Warden for the 2024 to 2026 remainder of the term by acclamation is Deputy Warden Jennifer Coughlin. Deputy Warden Coughlin, would you like to address council?
I would. Thank you.
Thank you. Just as the mover, if I could, I'm just going to say that I felt uniquely qualified because of holding the role for 2 years, that I knew what it took, and I was very honored to nominate Councillor Coughlin 2 years ago, and equally proud to nominate her today. She's done a fantastic job. I think it's a great team, and it's not an easy task to look after your whole municipality and look after the county, and I think they've both done an exceptional job, and I was pleased to nominate Councillor Coughlin.
Thank you. First off, congratulations, Warden Clark. Together, we have been dubbed the beauty and brains of Simcoe, and I would like you to know that I'm going to work really hard to make sure people know you're more than just a pretty face. Kidding aside, it's been a pleasure to work with you and serve our colleagues and our residents, and I look forward to doing it again with the same passion and enthusiasm as we have. Thank you.
Okay, so as both the warden and deputy warden positions have been acclaimed by the incumbents, this is a reminder that there will not be a midterm inaugural meeting held on December 10th. The Committee of the Whole Business Section chairs and vice chair, those elections, nominations and elections for those positions will occur at the November 26th regular meeting of council. And as both incumbents have been acclaimed, we'll also take a moment to administer the oaths of office for the 2024 to 2026 remainder of the term.
Okay. I, Basil Clark, having been elected to the office of warden in the municipality of the Corporation of the County of Simcoe, do solemnly promise and declare that I will truly, faithfully, and impartially exercise this office to the best of my knowledge and ability. I have not received and will not receive any payment or reward or promise thereof for the exercise of this office in a biased, corrupt, or improper manner. I will disclose any pecuniary interest, direct or indirect, in accordance with the Municipal of Conflict Act. I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to His Majesty King Charles III. I make this solemn promise and declaration conscientiously believing it to be true and knowing that it is the same force and effect as if made under oath.
Thank you very much, Warden Clark. Deputy Warden Coughlin,
Thank you. I, Jennifer Coughlin, having been elected to the office of Deputy Warden in the municipality of the Corporation of the County of Simcoe, do solemnly promise and declare that I will truly, faithfully, and impartially exercise this office to the best of my knowledge and ability. I have not received and will not receive any payment or reward or promise thereof for the exercise of the office in a biased, corrupt, or improper manner. I will disclose any pecuniary interest, direct and indirect, in accordance with the Municipal of Conflict of Interest Act. I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to His Majesty the King Charles III. And I make this solemn promise and declaration conscientiously believing it to be true and knowing that it is the same force and effect if made under oath.
Thank you very much, Deputy Warden.
Who's going to take our picture? Sandy's got it. No, you can stand proud.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And with that, Warden Clark, I'll turn the chair back over to you for the confirmatory bylaw and adjournment of the council meeting.
I'll say a confirmatory bylaw. Councillor Norcross.
Thank you, Your Worship, and newly re-elected, appointed, acclaimed warden. That bill, so moved by myself, second by Councillor McClellan, that bill number 7100-24 be enacted as a bylaw of the County of Simcoe. Thank you.
On the bylaw, any questions? All in favor? That is carried. And now a motion that the October 22nd, 2024 meeting of County Council be adjourned at 10:49. Moved by Councillor Measure, second by Councillor McDonald. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. If you can say
All rise. So I think we'll just take a few minutes here before we resume with the city reps for Committee of the Whole.
Okay, I'll call the meeting to order and thank our city reps for waiting patiently. Nothing controversial this morning, just salaries and elections. So it was a quick morning. Thank you for your patience. With that, I will look for a motion from, yes? Oh, we better do roll call, yes.
Thank you, Warden Clark. So for Committee of the Whole, all members of council again are present with the exception of Councillor Cabral, who sent his regrets. And with us, we also have city reps. And so Aurelia Councillor Durnford is present. Aurelia Councillor Follis is present. Barrie Councillor Hamilton is absent. Aurelia Mayor McIsaac is present. Barrie Councillor Negussi is present. Barrie Mayor Nuttall is absent. And Barrie Councillor Rietma is present. You have your quorum.
Thank you. So now I'll turn to Councillor Dolan for approval of the agenda.
Thank you. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Sandu that the agenda for October 22nd, 2024 meeting of the Committee of the Whole be approved.
Any questions arising from the agenda? All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Do I have a disclosure of pecuniary interest by any member of council? If you find yourself in that situation later, please declare it at that time. Presentations and delegations in all sections, we have none. So I will appoint Chair Cox for Performance Management Archives.
5.1 Simcoe County Archives Operations, September 2024. May I have a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by Councillor Anderson, second by Councillor Bell. That item CCW 2024-282, dated October 22nd, 2024, regarding Simcoe County Archives operations in September 2024 be received. Does anyone have any questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Thank you. Carried.
Thank you, Councillor. And now Chair Leduc, Human Services.
Thank you, Warden, and congratulations to both Warden and Deputy Warden for being elected. We're at Section 6, Human Services. I welcome the city reps with us now, and thank you for your patience. We are at 6.1, the consent agenda. Can I move in a seconder, please? Moved by Councillor Negussi and Deputy Mayor Sandu, that the following consent item having been given due consideration be received, and that's the Child Care Worker Early Childhood Educator Appreciation Day, which happened on October 20th, and we've supported since 2009. So, all in favor? Carried, thank you. We're into 7.1, Human Services, Social Housing. I have CCW 2024-248, End of Mortgage, Service and Exit Agreement Long-Term Strategy. So may I have questions or concerns with this report? The county's working hard to make sure that we work with all of our service providers, and it's a good report, so I appreciate that. Okay, can I get a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by Councillor Lavoie, seconded by Councillor Michael Smith. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. I don't want to move too fast, but we have to move along. Section 8, Human Services Long-Term Care Committee of Management. I will turn the meeting over to our General Manager, Jane Sinclair, for a nice little video update.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. This morning, video clip is part of our Takes a Village series that profiles wonderful stories in our long-term care homes and senior services. This morning's video clip is called Gone Fishin'. So over to our Deputy Clerk to show us today's video.
We are at the Georgian Bay Hunters and Anglers fishing spot. They are so great, and we brought a few of our residents to come and enjoy the beautiful weather and catch lots of fish.
I've done lots of fishing when I was younger, but well, I caught the big one last time I went fishing. 19-inch rainbow. They cleaned them and we have a big fish fry at the manor, which is nice.
We have the seniors from the Georgia Manor here today. They're enjoying a day of fishing with our stocked pond. We've already caught a couple fish. Hopefully everybody has a wonderful day and enjoys a nice fish dinner this evening. It's been a wonderful experience for us and for them. Our club is 101 years old this year. Last year we had our 100th anniversary and you guys were out for that. We have 2 ponds here. We have events every month, usually something going on of interest.
It's a beautiful day today. It's so important for our long-term care residents to get out and enjoy this beautiful day, beautiful weather, great people, and just great activities.
My name is Mary Villancourt, and I volunteer at the Georgian Manor for 25 years, and I do a bit of everything. Oh, it's just really heart feeling like to help the residents with the things they're doing, to help the staff with whatever they're doing, and I just love it. And it's so much fun because there's always something to do. Somebody needs a visit, somebody needs help with something, there's always something to do.
Events like this could not happen without our volunteers. They're crucial to having a great day, success out in the community. A lot of them ride the bus with us, they join us here, they help our residents one-to-one, and they make the day great.
Thank you very much.
Art, though, it's great when you see those videos. It's lovely to see our long-term care residents out there enjoying themselves, and I really hope they had a great fish fry. There is some great fishing up in that area for sure. I get up there myself to go do some fishing up there, so great to see that, and it's lovely to see the volunteers there, and the Blue Jay hat on one, so obviously we have a sports fan there also that's a volunteer, so love to see. Thank you very much for that. All right, we're on to 8.2, the Simcoe County Campus Project Update. Is anybody looking for any update on this project? It's moving along quite well. I missed the last meeting myself, but went through the minutes, and it seems to be moving along quite well. So I'm excited about it. I'm sure others are, and I know the residents of Simcoe Village are probably watching out the window steady, looking at that beautiful structure going up, looking forward to be in that building eventually. So, okay, I don't see any comments, so can I get a mover and seconder for this? Moved by Councillor Norcross, seconded by Councillor McClellan. That item CCW 2024-280 dated October 22, 2024 regarding Simcoe Village Campus Project Update be received. All in favor? Carried, thank you. Excellent. Other matters for consideration. Does anybody have other matters for consideration under Human Services? Okay, seeing none. Warden, I am to turn it back to you.
You've got your Simcoe housing now.
If we're ready, we'll move right into that. So I will call the meeting to order at 10:59. And the directors are Councillor Corbell, Councillor LaRose, myself, Councillor McDonald, Councillor Miskinins, Councillor Rawson, Councillor Sandu, Councillor Smith, and Councillor Michael Smith. Barrie Mayor Alex Nuttall, Deputy Mayor Robert Thompson, and Aurelia Councillor Jay Follis. So can I get approval of the agenda?
Just need you to recess into the meeting first, James.
Sorry.
I need a motion to recess into the meeting.
Okay, sorry. I need a motion to recess in the meeting. Moved by Councillor McDonald, seconded by Councillor Miskin. All in favor of recessing in the meeting? Thank you. Okay, now I call the meeting to order. I'll call the meeting to order now at 11 a.m. I've announced all of the members that are on this committee. Approve of the agenda. Can I get approval of Councillor Follis and Councillor Sandu? All in favor of the agenda as approved? Thank you. We are into pecuniary interests. Actually, I've read that one. So declaration of pecuniary interest. If anybody has one, you can declare it now or when the item comes forward. Seeing none, okay. We are into adoption of the previous minutes. I have 4.1, the Simcoe County Housing Corporation, August 13, 2024 minutes to put on the floor. Moved by Councillor Brian Smith, seconded by Councillor Michael Smith. Thank you. Questions or concerns with the minutes? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried, thank you. We are into section 4.1. It's the Simcoe County Housing Corporation Board. Oh, I did that, sorry. Matters for consideration. And I'm going to turn this over to our GM, Mina Fayaz-Baguette. I'll turn it over to you for comments.
Thank you, Chair Leduc. At this stage in the agenda, I do want to share a couple of tough nights in Simcoe County Housing Corp. We had a fire in Aurelia on Sunday night and then a fire last night in Bradford. So I wanted to provide a quick update on both those fires and have staff kind of share the response and sum up some of the systems of how we responded to both fires. So I'm going to pass it on to Director Spiewak.
Yeah, thank you, General Manager, and through Chair Leduc. So yeah, unfortunately, the first fire started around 4 p.m. Sunday. This was in one of the studio units, second floor of the 4-story structure. On the plus side, the fire started right underneath the sprinkler head and it was extinguished immediately. So good news there, very little damage to the unit, kitchens, paint. But usually we see lots of smoke damage, burn, char, those kinds of things. This was all quite clean. But obviously the downside in sprinklered building is there's a lot of water that puts that fire out. So actually Aurelia Fire was very helpful. They were actually helping squeegee and we kind of were able to direct a lot of the water. We didn't have to displace any unit or any tenants from any of the units, which was again obviously our paramount importance. But we did suffer some water damage in the 2 commercial units underneath. So the one child care center in the early on. So staff, we stayed through most of the night. And it's, like I said, a brigade of buckets, mops, shop vacs, and do everything we can do to get all that water cleaned up. Any wet materials moved so everything can dry. Unfortunately, this happens more than what we wanted to. So within the Housing Corporation, we do have a fleet of wet dry vacs, industrial dryers, fans, and all those types of things that we can do to try to move the air and get things dried out. We also, the county as a whole, has a bunch of that equipment as well. So if for some reason we do use up all of our equipment, we're able to borrow some from the county's central maintenance facility as well. So we've got tenants in roughly around 9 p.m. It would have been the main building that we've been able to get everybody put back in. The tenants on the second floor, we had to leave them out a little bit longer. It was about 10 p.m. and that's just because we had to do a lot of cleanup in that area of the building so that everybody could get back in. It does speak to a couple things, again, on how we design. Again, concrete and sprinklered, unfortunately in our world, does make sense, and this is a good example. A lot of the resilient flooring we use, again, a good example. If there's any sort of carpets, even if it's carpet tile, you can imagine once it's soaking wet, it's a problem. So having some of the ceramics and some of those finishes, some of the extra drains that we do are a big help. The other thing that we do is when we design our systems, we do design a fair bit of extra air capacity in them, and it's for this reason. So once fire gives the all clear, we can turn on our big air moving equipment and actually flush all the smoke out if there is any, and also you just use it for drying, so trying to get all the units in the hallways dry. So we ran all our air systems through the night, and they'll continue even for a couple of days. We'll leave them going. So that was the main fire in Aurelia. Then in Bradford last night, unfortunately this is, again, on circumstances, I think we've probably all heard that happen to seniors sometimes. So a senior fell asleep, and unfortunately there was a blanket and a heater involved, and that started fire. So in that particular unit, there was a bit more damage. 2 sprinkler heads let go, so again, fire out quite quick, even before Bradford Fire got there. But again, a fair bit more water damage. This was on the 3rd floor, which means that water is going to go down to the 2nd floor and then down to the 1st floor. So on that fire, again, good news that no one was hurt. We don't have any displaced tenants out of undue hardship. There's 3 units that suffered water damage that will be drying out today. And unfortunately, depending on the amount of water in the units, we got to shut power down. And so those units that have the power off, then we'll get ESA back in, or the Electrical Safety Authority, with our electricians, recertify everything is good and get the power back on. One thing our staff do as well in helping those tenants move, we did have 1 unit that was being turned over for another tenant, so we were able to get them in there. And then our guys also will move their fridges for them. So unfortunately, those people that, as we know, they don't have a lot of money to begin with, but their fridges, once we shut power down to their unit, we'll pull their whole fridge out, move it to one of the storage rooms, get it plugged in, so at least their food will be maintained and they can go and get stuff from their fridge until we have the units all dried out and back in. So from our side, the priority is obviously get that childcare up and running. That's high importance, because you can imagine there's a lot of working parents that are trying to drop their children off at daycare that all of a sudden it's been closed. I believe that Westridge is relocating or moving some of the daycare children to another location just temporarily again, so that they can keep providing that service. But we'll try to get the daycare open as quickly as possible, followed by early on, and of course the other units at Bradford. We should be able to get those going fairly quickly. Only the unit that the fire was in Bradford will probably be out at least a month, something like that, by the time we get it dried, drywall work, paint, and all those other things to get it back in. But again, we'll do it as quickly as we can. But again, it does help having our online, our off hours call staff that we can bring in. And again, if we can mitigate as much of those water damage, it helps with insurance. So again, some of the members of the board, and certainly when you're looking at budget deliberations next week, you're going to see insurance is a significant cost and continues to go up. So again, the more equipment we have, the more we can mitigate those costs and potentially not even go through insurance if we don't need to. Obviously can help offset premiums and help out the overall financial picture. I don't know if there's anything Manager Toth wanted to add just for the tenant side.
All right, thank you for that update, and glad that there was no life loss in these issues, so that's the first and foremost, and look forward to seeing the resident, especially in Bradford. Have they moved to another unit or something? How are you dealing with that?
Yeah, through the chair, that's correct. Of the 3 residents, 1 was staying with a friend. Exterior to the building, another resident is staying with a friend within the building, so at least that's a little bit less disruption. And then the third unit, or the third tenant, sorry, like I said, we had a vacant unit being turned over that we're able to just temporarily locate them. So we moved their, like I said, their fridge, their bed, and some of the minor furniture over there, so they can obviously live comfortably for a few days while we get things cleaned up.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Great work. Any questions or concerns from the members? Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just think it's important to point out kudos to Brad and the staff. You know, in the county, our housing is so vitally important, especially to those who are a little more vulnerable than others. And I would argue that if this was a private type entity, that these services would not have been available so quickly, and that cleanup certainly wouldn't be happening at this speed. So great work to Brad and the team. Thank you so much for what you do, and good work on the county for what we do with respect to housing.
Yes, thank you for those comments, Councillor Smith. Appreciate that. And it is a great effort by our staff, so thank you so much. Okay, seeing no further comments or questions, I will move into 5.1, the Simcoe Housing Corporation property lot line adjustments. So can I move her in a seconder, please? Who have I not used so far that's here? Councillor Rawson, moved by. Councillor LaRose, seconded. Thank you. Question, concerns with the lot line adjustment? It looks like staff's working through that, so. Okay, seeing no issues, can I have that item, HCB 2024-228, dated October 22nd, 2024, regarding Simcoe County Housing Corporation property lot line adjustment, be received and approved. All in favor? Carried, thank you. We are on to 5.2, HCB 2024-262, the 2024 capital budget reallocation. Questions or concerns with this one? You can see that they've just adjusted some of the projects. There's no financial implication to the Housing Corporation. It looks okay, looks like it's good work. So can I get a mover and a seconder for this one then? Moved by Councillor Miskinen, seconded by Councillor Smith. That item CCW 2024-262 dated October 22nd, 2024 regarding the 2024 capital budget reallocation be received, and that capital funds budgeted for projects in 2024 be reallocated to complete identified projects as generally outlined in item CCW 2024-262, and that staff submits the recommended project to Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation for Canada Greener Affordable Housing retrofit funding as generally outlined in item HCB 2024-262. All in favor? Carried, thank you. We are on to 5.3 HCB 2024-264, the 2024 second quarter report. Can I get a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor McDonald, seconded by Councillor Sandhu. Concerns or questions with this second quarter report? Everything's moving along, there's good data in there. Okay, seeing no questions, then I have that items HCB 2024-264 dated October 22nd, 2024 regarding the 2024 second quarter report be received. All in favor? Carried, thank you. Other matters for consideration. Do we have any other matters for consideration? Okay, seeing none, then there's no confidential matters. We have an adjournment. So moved by Councillor Fala, seconded by Councillor Smith, that the October 22nd, 2024 meeting of Simcoe County Housing Corporation Board be adjourned at 11:12. All in favor? Carried, thank you. And we are back to now that the committee of whole reconvene at 11:12. Do I move in a seconder for that? Okay. Moved by Councillor Miskinen, seconded by Councillor Fryer. All in favor? Carried, thank you. I turn it back to you, Warden.
Thank you, and I want to thank the city rep, I guess at this point, all the rest have scurried out. Thanks, Jay. And with that, I don't think we'll take a break. We've got a lot of heavy lifting yet. I'll turn it over to Corporate Services Chair Dolan.
Thank you. I have only one item, which is to ask if there's any matters for consideration, any other matters for consideration. Seeing none, I'll pass it back to you, Warden.
Okay, so we'll move on to performance management. Chair Cox.
Yep. Any other matters for consideration? Seeing none, thank you.
Is there any need to go in camera for the land acquisition? If not, then I will read a motion that the direction in camera and recommendations contained within confidential item CCW 2024-271 dated October 22nd, 2024 regarding a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land be approved and voted upon in accordance with section 239(6)B of the Municipal Act. Moved by Councillor Van Staveren, second by Councillor Snell. All in favor? That is carried. Just a quick reminder that we do have our budget. The 29th, I think, is the next time, and it is virtual. So no need to drive down here. This is a budget presentation where you can sit at home and, well, let's not have a football game on or something. Let's actually pay attention to the budget. So with that, I will look for an adjournment now. Do we adjourn the, where's my resolution? Yes, Councillor Dolan.
Could I just ask one question of clarification? Since we now do not have an inaugural meeting on December the 10th, will we still have the meeting at 1 o'clock or will it be moved to the 9 o'clock time slot?
I would have to confirm that. I think that the intent of the meeting for December 10th was just for it to be for the midterm inaugural. Most of the time there isn't a meeting in December, so I believe the December meeting would be canceled. And I should note the I think it was in the in my speech previously, but the vice chair and chair nominations for the business sections would now take place on November 26th at that meeting.
Okay. So with that, motion that the October 22nd, 2024 meeting of the Committee of the Whole be adjourned at 11:15. Moved by Councillor Measures, second by Councillor Fowler. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you.